All right, here we go, day one. So the idea that we're going to cover right now is the concept of learning leadership skills. How do you maximize your efficiency to actually retain and use the skills that you're going to learn, not only here, but really for any other topic that's going to help you achieve your goals more or make more money. The first thing that I want you to get your head around is an acronym called KIND. And that stands for knowing is not doing. The idea that just because you've learned something doesn't mean, number one, that you're actually going to use it or that you're going to use it effectively. So really get your head around the idea that just because you're learning skills all the time, it doesn't mean you're actually going to be able to implement them to make money. You have to have ways to retain and use those skills as you learn them. The most important educational principle I can convey to you is one called the 7 times principle. Essentially what that means is your brain will need on average about 5 to 12 exposures of a lesson in order to actually retain that information properly and over a span of time. Really what that means is that if you're only going to learn something once, you may as well have not learned it at all. And so the first thing that you need to understand when it comes to being able to retain information effectively is repetition, repetition, repetition. How much repetition? 7 times. So the 7 times principle is really getting your head around the idea that you will need to be reviewing lessons, you will need to be evaluating the way that you use them. It means that you will need to be going back over old notes. It means that you might need to try and learn things in new ways, whether that's online or through mentors or whatever you really need to do. You've got full autonomy and freedom here. But the golden rule for the 7 times principle is try to learn something 7 times in 7 different ways, because the different ways means that you get more dopamine if something's new, and that dopamine makes you pay attention to it and it'll stick better. The downside with leadership skills is that this is vitally more important to use the 7 times principle because it's not something you're going to get the same amount of repetitions in as you would something like sales or a more nominal skill. Because when you're learning something, let's say in sales or in a sport, you've got 20 to 30 opportunities to practice that skill right then and there. But the amount of feedback loops that you're going to get with leadership skills is far fewer. So there is extra responsibility on you when learning leadership skills. Not only do you need to review the content more, but also use it as much as you can. But now let's look into the various ways that you can maximize your learning to maximize this 7 times principle. So the first thing that you can do when really trying to maximize how well your brain retains information is really easy. As you're watching videos, or if you're attending conferences, or if you're looking at My Ugly Mug, it's very easy. All you have to do is take written notes along with what you're learning. So if you see something that you think, oh, that's good, I'm going to use that, write it down. Now, writing it with a pen is much more effective than writing it in your notes on your phone or on your laptop. The reason being is that writing something down from your brain to your hand to the paper, it engages more parts of your brain than just listening to it alone. Now, the more engagement you have in the various parts of your brain, the more electricity gets produced and the more chemicals happen. And that's what makes those synapses, basically the habits and storage of information, occur. So the more that you can write things down and just get in the habit of taking written notes, not only does that give you another way to get a repetition on that skill very easily, but simultaneously it actually maximizes the effect of what you're learning because it's sticking better just because you're writing it down. The second way you can maximize your education is to review the content after a couple of days or maybe a week. The easiest way to remember to do that is to set an alarm or reminder in your phone to say, review notes from XYZ, or just review notes in general. And just getting into the habit of regularly reviewing old notes, you'll be amazed at how much you go, oh my goodness, I wasn't even using that. And it'll then spark one of those 7 repetitions very, very easily. Reviewing something is what I call a meta habit. There are some habits that by doing that one thing, it makes other habits happen as well. So for instance, reading in the morning The act of reading in the morning makes you more likely to want to learn or notice things through the day, like I said in the initial video. So that's a meta habit. Well, getting in the habit of reviewing skills is not just going to make you better at reviewing your skills, it'll make you better at following up on things in general, which is another really important leadership skill. Another really effective way to learn something is to teach it to somebody else as quickly as possible. This is for two reasons. Number one, it's a new way of getting that information into your brain. It's not the same as just listening to it. It's a totally different experience which your brain likes and makes you more likely to retain the information. More importantly though, is in order to teach something to someone else effectively, your brain has to have a concrete grasp of what you're actually teaching. So it improves the clarity of the concepts for you simply by you having to work through the process of how you're going to teach that to somebody else. So teaching skills back to someone are also a really effective way to make sure you're learning more. Another really important way that you can get skills locked into your brain, which you've heard a few times already, is to use that skill as quickly and as often as you can. Just like trying to remember somebody's name. If you suck at remembering names, use their name as much as you can in that first conversation you have with them. And you'll find that you'll remember their name way easier. Well, that applies to any skill that you need to improve on. If you want to get better at it, practice makes perfect. Now, the last thing you can do is really more of a hack than a skill, but it's really important when your brain is trying to integrate a skill. Now, integrate means it will take it from the outside of your brain where it learns new things and move it into the inside of your brain where it uses things. That process happens while you are asleep. So if you are a party animal, or if you are a night owl, or if you're just somebody who doesn't value getting enough sleep, you're probably not going to be someone who's very good at retaining information and using it. So really trying to engineer habits that enable you to sleep well is a very underrated and valuable learning skill that will help you maximize this 7 times principle. So look, if you're not a very good sleeper, there's a couple of things that you can do. Number one, don't look at your phone an hour before bed. The light makes you think it's daytime. Try not to play any video games either. It puts too much dopamine in your brain. Dopamine keeps you awake. And try to wake up at the same time every morning and don't hit the snooze button. So if you do struggle with sleep, try those things before you go into looking at any other crazy alternatives. But hopefully that's helpful. Now, to wrap this all up, there's just a couple of things I want to review with you. Number one, knowing is not doing. Kind. You've got to be repeating the skill, repeating the education and the use of the skill as much as you can. Right? The other thing that you can do is really get your head around the idea that 7 times is the goal. Set it as a challenge and actually try to complete that challenge as often as you can. And lastly, make sure you're using the ways to maximize education. That's writing things down, looking back over your notes, teaching it to other people, using it as much as you can, and getting a good night's sleep. With all of those things, hopefully you'll have the foundation you need to put the rest of the skills from this course into action.